This collection that I have right here is a beautiful edition from Barnes& and Noble, has the gold edges, and it includes artwork throughout. This is a translation by Sir Richard F. Burton of the classic Middle Eastern folk tales. Now, my understanding is that he is not the first one to attempt a translation, but this is one of the works that he is most known for, and that's going to be based off of his spin of things. As a man not of this culture, the translator seemed to be very fascinated with the region and its stories. While I'm sure he did his best, I feel like it's a product of its time and it's not very friendly to women. At least not his translation. In fact, when looking into it, he might have overemphasized some of the more sexual elements of the story. Basically, as a classical piece of work, feminist and respectful in nature, this story is not. But it's such an interesting concept. This is about storytellers, and the overall premise is that there is a ruler that was cheated on by his wife, and the only response was the extreme. He now demands a new wife every single night for them to be untouched, and that in order for his masculine ego to survive, for them to then be executed the next day. That is until he meets a young woman who basically volunteers for such a horrible position. She is trying to save other young women from the same fate. She uses her intelligence and abilities in order to keep him on the hook every single night with the story that she's telling. And soon it becomes a magical work of stories within stories within stories. You're going to hear mention of some very famous heroes and anti-heroes of folklore. You'll have all 7 trials of Sinbad, you'll learn about Aladdin and his magic lamp, and you may have also heard about Ali Baba and his interaction with the many thieves. And for me, that was a big part of the reason why I picked up the book. I wanted to get as close as I could to the original source material when it comes to those stories. But because this is from a British translator, reading the book itself wasn't really vibing for me. I guess my internal British narrator wasn't really hitting the mark, and this was a collection that in order to finish it, I actually had to pick up an audiobook edition. Now, the version that I picked did have a British man reading off the story to me, but the narrator did such a good job of performing that even though I was side-eyeing pretty much every single male mentioned in the book, it helped me to actually finish the goal. Now, don't get me wrong, this collection of stories does try and look at the different archetypes within society, both male and female, and there are good and bad characters. And not every single story ends or is predicated on women suffering, although it feels like it's pretty heavy on that subject. When the women triumph, they are showing extraordinary feat and skill, especially compared to the world that they're living in. To sum it up, I'm glad I gave it a chance. I'm glad I stuck all the way through. And because this is an older text, be prepared for triggering subjects when, like I said, it comes to women-men relations, and also some of the language that is used. What about y'all? Have you read this, and do you have a favorite story within the collection, or do you have a favorite adaptation of one of the stories in the collection?